Welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you're a C-suite executive or an IT director, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're tackling a beast of a topic, migrating from VMware Cloud Foundation to a physical infrastructure. But honestly, we're not here to talk about cables or servers or software licenses. We are here to talk about the absolute most critical, yet somehow most overlooked element of this whole transformation, the human element. So let's jump right in. This quote right here really sets the stage for everything we're doing today. Navigating the people side of infrastructure transformation, that's where these projects actually live or die. Hardware and software, they're critical, obviously, but they're predictable. A server does what you tell it to do. Your migration's success ultimately hinges on the readiness of your IT team. If your engineers aren't ready, well, your infrastructure isn't ready. We see this massive divide in how organizations view these projects. On one side, you've got the technical migration, right? Procuring the tech stack, racking the hardware, installing the software. And then on the other side, you have the human migration, the skills and training readiness. We'll spend months, literally years, obsessing over the technical side. But the human migration, it kind of just gets relegated to an afterthought. So the main takeaway I want you to hold on to is this. Training readiness is migration readiness. You absolutely cannot separate the two. Okay, so here is our strategic roadmap for today. First, why people drive success. Second, assessing skills and stacks. Third, controlling the narrative. Fourth, setting up the mid-migration war room. Fifth, building institutional IT knowledge. And finally, giving you a concrete 30-day action plan. Section 1. People drive migration success, the foundation of transformation. When you look at the really high failure rates in complex infrastructure migrations, it's rarely just about technical glitches. It's almost always directly tied to skill gaps and team burnout. Think about it. Training without milestones is really just a wish list. Before you go out and procure a single course or certification voucher, every single training date has to be tied directly back to your migration project plan. Honestly, no migration phase should even begin until the prerequisite training is officially signed off by the responsible manager. Moving on to Section 2, assessing skills and stacks, mapping the gap. Before we can effectively train our people, we have to map the gap between what they know right now and what they desperately need to know to pull off this cutover. The very first step is conducting a highly detailed skills inventory. You need to survey your staff on their current VMware VCF proficiency. We're talking things like vSphere, NSXT, and vSAN. Why? Because you have to map those specific proficiencies to your target state. You're specifically hunting for gaps in bare metal OS administration, physical networking, and SAN or NAS management. But hold on, here is a massive warning. You have got to lock in your target infrastructure stack before you spend a dime on training. Are you going with Proxmox, Hyper-V, or KVM? What about networking? Are we talking Cisco, Aruba, or Juniper? Pure Storage or NetApp? If your training isn't completely aligned with your final stack, you are just throwing budget out the window and worse, creating a really dangerous false sense of confidence. So document the full target stack first, no exceptions. Once you have your locked-in stack and your inventory, you operationalize that data by building out a role-based training matrix. For your systems admins, the priority is probably going to be bare metal OS provisioning and VM lifecycle management. For your network engineers, it's all about replacing NSXT with physical switching, VLAN design, and protocols like BGP or OSPF. Break it all down by specific roles so the training is hyper-targeted and actually useful. To wrap up this pre-flight phase, here's your mandatory executive checklist. Notice that last item, champions enrolled. Identifying your early migration champions and getting them into that first training cohort is an absolute must. But I cannot stress this enough. Establishing a Race C model here is equally crucial. You have to clearly define who assigns the training, who delivers it, and who tracks the completion. Any ambiguity about who's responsible for what will completely kill your momentum. Section 3. Controlling the narrative. Migration communication governance. How you talk about this migration, both internally and externally, can totally make or break the project's stability. You have to govern the communication to manage perceptions and minimize risks. It's all about defining strict information tiers. Executive sponsors, they just need the strategic milestones. Your help desk, they really only need to know about impact windows and potential downtime. Over-communicating early-stage, half-baked plans to engineers or roles that don't need those details yet, it just creates unnecessary noise and breeds premature resistance. Control who knows what and exactly when they know it. And this right here is a massive strategic lever. clearly defining your migration readiness criteria. Think of it as your point of no return. You need to define, well in advance, the exact technical threshold where this migration becomes totally irreversible. Maybe it's when the last production workload leaves VCF, or maybe it's the day your vendor licenses are formally not renewed. Reaching that specific threshold removes all the ambiguity and should be your absolute trigger for making external announcements and reviewing your vendor contracts. Section 4. The Mid-Migration War Room, Managing the Chaos. Entering the active migration window means high-stakes action and a ton of real-time learning. Let's just be brutally honest for a second. Things are going to go wrong. To manage that chaos, you need a migration war room knowledge hub. And I'm not just talking about a physical room with whiteboards. It's a process. Keep all your centralized runbooks on a wiki. But here is the real secret weapon. Assign one designated knowledge officer for every single shift whose only job is to capture decisions and workarounds in real time. I promise you this specific role pays for itself 10 times over when it comes to the quality of your post-migration documentation. And be sure to pair this with a mandatory daily lessons learned segment in your stand-ups. When an incident inevitably happens, I want you to use this rapid-fire loop. Step 1, a strict, mandatory 15-minute post-resolution debrief. Figure out the root cause and exactly how you fixed it. Step 2, those lessons are immediately fed straight back into your living runbooks. You literally cannot afford to make the same mistake twice during a high-stakes cutover window. As leaders, you have to actively reframe mistakes mid-migration. Errors made in a supervised migration context are learning events. They are not performance failures. You need to explicitly and repeatedly reinforce this to your entire team. Keep a really close eye out for burnout signals. Teams that actually feel safe sharing their screw-ups adapt so much faster under sustained stress. Section 5. Building Institutional IT Knowledge, the Legacy of Migration. This aftermath phase touches directly on the strategic guidance we find in Chapter 9 of our source material, which is absolutely crucial. Chapter 9 focuses entirely on how to convert the sheer chaos of a cutover into permanent, rock-solid institutional IP. It warns us that knowledge existing only in a single engineer's head is a massive operational liability, and frankly, a total succession planning failure. To fix this, Chapter 9 outlines building a formal knowledge management system. You have to mandate living runbooks, and they must have named owners. An undated runbook without an owner is basically a liability. Tie this training and documentation completion directly into their performance reviews. Run quarterly simulated fire drills. And finally, push your engineers toward advanced certifications like a CCNP to guarantee long-term operational resilience and cut down your dependency on expensive external vendor support. Section 6. Your 30-day action plan. Getting started. Okay, let's bring all of this high-level strategy down to the tactical level with a super clear 4-week blueprint you can start tomorrow. Week 1, launch that structured skills inventory survey across all your IT roles. Week 2, firmly confirm your target infrastructure stack so you don't buy the wrong training materials. Week 3, build out your role-based training matrix and submit your formal budget request. And Week 4, identify those early migration champions and enroll them in the very first training cohort. Their early success is going to be the proof of concept that really inspires the rest of your team to get on board. Before we wrap up, here is a fantastic strategic budget tip straight from the source material. Never, ever pay retail for training. When you're out there procuring all this new hardware and software, negotiate vendor training credits directly into those procurement contracts. Most vendors will absolutely offer them if you just press them a bit, which effectively funds your entire training runway for free. I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. Training readiness is migration readiness. You have to start right now, not at the project kickoff. Now, every single week you delay compresses your training runway and exponentially increases your risk during cutover. So I want you to look at your team and ask yourself honestly, are your people truly ready for day 0?